Hello everyone, this is EllieJayLiquid. Welcome back to my channel. So today we will try something that is called texture baking. So basically what we will be doing is in Maya we will create a material. I will be using a ramp shader, and then after that we will set up a couple of lights just for us to be able to interact with that shader or material. And after that we will try to bake that lighting information onto the texture of the object. So this is a really cool little technique which might be useful for when you're trying to texture something really quickly, and you will be able to take the texture into another Maya scene without the same lighting setup, or you can take this into a game engine. So for example, you could take it into Unity and do a very quick and basic setup with the materials, and you're pretty much done. You have quite an interesting result. So without further ado, let's go and continue with this lesson. Okay, so basically we are here in Maya. I have to be quite careful not to move my laptop too much because of this new camera. So I don't really have any plan for what I will be modeling, but I usually go for this particular exercise with this something like a totem looking little thing, which can be quite cool, I suppose. So we can just start with something as simple as a cube, I guess. One thing I want to check though before we do anything else is what dimensions I'm working within. So under Windows, Settings and Preferences, if I go under Settings, I'm working in centimeters, so I might as well just change it to something a little bit bigger. So now I can create my cube over here, and it will be 1 meter wide. And I just want to put it somewhere where it's sitting in the middle of the grid as well, so it's sort of like sitting on the floor. For that I will change the pivot point by pressing V to snap it. I'll snap it to the bottom of this and press D again to confirm X. X will snap to the grid. Okay, so from here I can start changing things up a little bit. So maybe this is going to be really simple, so I don't really want to bother with creating anything super complex. And we can go and Control E from here. I'll drag it out a little bit. Ooh. Drag it out. I'm not sure what interesting. What did you do? Okay, let's try this again. Thank you, Maya. Cool, so something like this, maybe. Potentially we can go and create another offset here. Okay. Now, of course, because we changed the dimensions, this is going to be a little bit harder to use, which is fine. Cool, I don't know, I guess something like this. Control E again. Potentially I also want to change this. Oops. Really quickly select things, just to give us a little bit more of a information to work with. So you will see that I'm switching to 3 just to make sure that we don't have any weird double faces or anything like that. Cool, from here we can go and do another extrusion. I guess something like this could be cool. Control E again. Let's take a look at what kind of shape, overall shape we're getting. It sort of looks like a lamp of some sort. Not entirely happy with it, but it's fine. Okay. So from here, I suppose we can start thinking about more interesting things to include. So normally I would have a couple of indentations in this particular model as well, just to kind of again make it look slightly more interesting. What can we do here? Just wondering if I want to create something like a little bit of an offset over here. We'll use my gizmos. Cool, that's not too bad, I suppose. Okay. Awesome. So let's maybe add something that looks like eyes. I don't know. Another offset. Another offset, and we'll scale it maybe down like so and move it slightly upwards. And if you wanted to make them look a little bit more, I guess, uniform, you can always use our snap. So I'm just confirming that I'm working with this particular axis, and then press and hold V, middle mouse click anywhere. Oops, I didn't click where it was meant to do. Over here, so just to make sure that they're sitting on the same line. And I suppose I can move those guys a little bit as well. Something close to this. What else can we do with those eyes? Do we want it to make sad? No. Cool, maybe let's just do another extrusion and we'll go inwards this time. Just a little bit. And I want this to kind of be... I wonder if we can just do this a little bit offset. Do we want them to be bigger or not? Maybe not for now. We'll see what happens. Maybe he's an angry guy. Call another extrusion. Seriously, not the best creation I've ever done in my life, but I guess we'll have to go with it for now. And maybe, actually, I'm looking at this, and maybe we can do something like another couple of edges over here so I can build some sort of eyebrows, maybe? I don't know, why not? We can do some ears over here and maybe some decorations over here. Potentially scale this. Maybe it looks okay this way. Okay, so what I want to do is to go into my edge mode from here, select this edge, control right click, edge ring utilities to edge ring and split. You will see it splitting it in the middle, but I actually want to do something a little bit different. So I go with multi under the inputs. It lets me. Come on. Cool. So what I don't need, I will get rid of it, and then I'll connect potentially those guys together. Maybe. So if I just get rid of this one and this one, also want to do the same at the back, because we'll probably just create a triangle somewhere to terminate this edge properly. And then from here, what can we do? We can just connect those ones. So we'll go onto the vertex. Cool, connect those ones, and now we have a little bit of space to create our eyebrows as well. So I guess same thing as before. Control E, make an offset. Something like this. We'll probably change those edges a little bit as well. So let's just scale them. You know, if we want it to be more precise again, click on something, confirm the axis V on keyboard, snap. The same here, if we want it to be really nice and precise about everything. Could do the same thing in here, but let me just move those ones a little bit. I think we can just go this way. It's gonna look fine. I think so. Maybe let's change those ones. I don't know, very sad looking little totem guy. Cool. Honestly, not sure how happy I am about this one, but we'll just have to go with it. What if it's... I don't know, it kind of just looks really sad. Sad old man who's quite sick. Oh well, that's what we'll have to do for now. And what did we say before? I want some ears as well, So let's offset again. Control E again. Drag it out. Scale. Oops, not what we wanted. So go like this. Control E again. Do this inwards thing. What else can we have? Suppose we could have some sort of a beard. Maybe. What if it was like coming out of here? Maybe. So let's just see what happens. So something like this. Maybe move those ones a little bit. Oh, well, this is maybe a little bit more interesting. Okay. So we have an angon just here at the back, which we can just potentially, because we won't be really using the smooth mode, oh my god, it looks so funny, we can just connect those edges to one of the corners over here. And what else can be done? Cool, I'll probably have to run hardened edge on this guy as well. We'll just say for some decorations we'll have just a couple of things in here. Oops. Let's do off and create an offset. Cool. I think something like this could work. I really don't like this edge over here. Let's see if we can put some bevel on top of this, which I think we can. Proportion wise, I'm not sure if I want to change anything. Could do something like this, but then it might be a little bit too weird. I guess we'll just keep this thing, and then in the modeling menu I want to go under my mesh display, and let's just harden everything. I don't think it's gonna be a bad thing if all of those are quite hard edges. On those eyes, I really want to do something about them. Okay, this is slightly better, and let's fix this as well, what I was going to fix before. Cool, I think it still looks sort of fine. Very low poly. Really, I hope you can do a better job compared to what I did here, but let's go on. Freeze transformations, delete history, name this something else. Okay, so once we've done that, I guess the next thing for us to do will be to actually unwrap this model. So because I'm not entirely worried about the UVs this time, what I want to do is actually just use the automatic unwrap on him, and that will ensure that we might actually get better results in terms of not having any bleeds or anything like that. If you want, you can spend a little bit more time on just making sure that, you know, everything is sort of nice and clean. I will just not bother and go with my automatic unwrap for this one. Let's take a look. Probably gonna look, yeah, it looks sort of okay-ish. And again, don't forget to delete history for this guy. So the way we will be creating the textures for this is we'll go under here, and first we'll try to find the ramp shader. Cool, for some reason we have two, which is interesting, I suppose. And I want to assign this to our guy over here. Probably won't be able to see much just yet. If I try to minimize this window a little bit so that I can see better what I'm actually doing. Cool, so click here. And you will see that over here we have this color property, which we will be working with. So I guess we can go with some sort of, I don't know, a couple of different colors for this one. More yellowish. Oops, I didn't mean to close it. And let's go for bluish color. And you will notice that with this one, what happens at the moment is that Maya is just using the default light setup. We will keep this light angle. You can also try and use brightness. I think it should work as well. I don't want to be using facing angle because that will be determined, I guess, by the way we're looking at the object. So for now, what I want to do is to start creating lights. And we'll just create a couple. It's a tiny light, so I'll just scale it a little bit. And if I press 7, I should start seeing my ramp shader kind of talking a little bit to the light. So as you can see, we're starting to get different results on this. And although I like this setup, I also might want to have some sort of light over here, sort of falling on the object from different angles. So let me just check this really quickly if I want to do anything else with this. So you can see how the way the object is displayed is going to change depending on what you're doing with the ramp shader. Right, so we can have some quite crazy results over here. I wonder if this is going to give us anything if we went with something like this. And then we probably have too much of this purple, too little of the blue. I guess you can play around for ages with this stuff. And maybe this purple is actually too extreme for me. Make it more saturated. Do we even like this yellow? Can always go with something a little bit more interesting. So just reverse the colors. I'm not sure if we achieved anything by doing this. That might just look a little bit weirder. Maybe I'll go with my original setup for now. And this, no, let's just get rid of this one. So let's say you are happy, you can play around with the colors as much as you want. It's really up to you as to what you want the object to look like, right? But what I want to do now is to duplicate the light, so Control D. And if I go here and just kind of, I guess I will keep this as it is, and then for my rotation, let's go with 90. So that's one of the lights. And I want another one, which is, I guess, -90. And maybe I want another one, which can be just sitting over there. And this is going to be 180. So for those ones, I don't really want them to be as bright as the main light over here. So potentially we can go and change a couple of things. Just make sure that I'm selecting the correct thing. So change the intensity on those ones to something quite small. I'm just doing it for one of them. Okay, that's fine. So let's set it up one by one. Okay. instead. Might be easier to do it from here as well. Okay, let's change the intensity. How much did we have for this one? It was this number. I guess we'll just go with this number for now. And same here. Cool. It's not too bad. Maybe I want to change this a little bit so it's sort of slightly darker, like on the other side. The same with this one. Cool. So we have, I guess, most of the color is coming from this one. And once again, I'm gonna try and play around with this really quickly. Cool. Sorry. You'll see that the brightness option will give you quite a different result. So we'll go with this one for now. Okay, so what we've done is we have unwrapped the model, right? So we have the lights set up as well. And we've changed our ramp shader a little bit to, I guess, make it look slightly more interesting. And I think I kind of managed to screw it up again, which is fine. Just want it to be a little bit darker. Okay. And same with this one. Okay. And let's say once we're happy, we want to actually transfer this map into the, transfer the lighting information into the texture. So in the previous versions of Maya, it was quite easy to do. I've kind of been looking into Maya 2017 for this for a little bit and then realized that the old method wasn't working. So the one that I'm going to use is using the transfer maps option. Which might be a very lengthy way of doing this, but it works. And if you know the simpler version of this, please do let me know, because that's how I've been doing it for a little bit now. So let's click on this and we'll go into the rendering menu now. So under the rendering menu, what we can find here is, under lighting and shading, is our transfer maps. So this is our window for transfer maps. And basically what we want to do is to create a duplicate of this object, which we might set up actually just now. And I will be using my low poly and high poly conventions, although there will be absolutely no difference between the objects. It's just so that I know what they are. Or we can also call them just target and source meshes, right? So that might be a little bit more or easier to understand what we're doing. So target, and target is the object that will be receiving information, and we'll duplicate it, Control D, and this one will be our source. So we will be kind of stealing the information from our source over here, and now with two of those, and I actually want to have my outliner here as well. Just change the position. Cool. Okay, so now we just need to assign those target and source meshes into the appropriate slots. So you will see that by default it should already connect your totem 01 target under the target. If it didn't, you can always clear all and just re-edit, so target goes in here. Then we need to add our source, which will go into this slot. And also for the maps that we will be baking out, you will see there's a couple of output maps we can choose, so I'll just get rid of this one for now. So we want to go with the shaded, just be careful, don't go with the diffuse. So it's saying that it's lit and shaded color map. If you want to have shadows in this texture as well, you will have to set up shadows in the lights themselves. So you know, like there's this old type of lights, of shadows on those lights that we should be able to find somewhere. Cool, so we will just use those depth map shadows if you wanted to. You will just have to set those ones up and they will appear in the texture. Don't really want to do it with mine, so I'll just go with what I have in here and no shadows coming from those guys. It's really good though, so you know, if you have like a little diorama or something like that and you wanted to have those shadows kind of baked into the texture, feel free to do that. So the next thing we want to do is to change the name over here. You know, so because I have this old one here and I'll just use this. Yes, replace. Oh, the only thing I don't want a PNG, I actually want a TGA. Cool, so we have our target. Although it says include shadows, it's not gonna do it as far as I remember. So that's why I mentioned those light shadows before. We will be using my common outputs, and we want to have a new shader. So if you don't have this checked, check this on. We'll go with a new shader, so it means I will create a new shader for us. And if you have to rebake anything after the first bake, make sure that you're using a signed shader so you don't create 1,000 million of new materials. We'll go with quite a small map this time, so 1K. It should be enough for an object like this. I would probably even go with something smaller. The rest of the settings you see on my screen are okay. Please make sure that you have a little bit of this fill texture seams. So this is in pixels and it talks about the distance between the UV shells. So you want to have a little bit of texture bleed so that you don't end up with really weird looking problems on the edges of your UV shells. So 10 pixels should be enough. And because those objects are so similar, like they're exactly the same object, I am not going to be bothered with working with envelopes or anything like that. So we'll just go with what we have here, and hopefully without any additional setup we should get a result out of this. So we'll try and see what happens if we click bake. Okay, so the bake is done. Let's find our target mesh and go into the isolate select to see what happened. So it looks like something came through, like some of the information is in there, but it looks really washed out. So what we might need to do is to go and take a look at the material that Maya has created for us. So for me it's Lambert 4, for you it probably will be Lambert 2, depending on how long you have been working with this scene, and if you've done anything else in the scene as well. So you will see that if we click on this material, our diffuse map, or what I consider to be a diffuse map, got combined or got input into the ambient color slot, which is not really what we want to have. So from here, let me just really quickly check what this file is called. Okay, I want to go back to my material and I want to disconnect this. So right click, actually we can also do it from here. If I click on this, cool, so let's just break this connection and we'll put this into the color instead, and hopefully this will look much better, much nicer. So we have all of that color material which we had before, and we are using the default lighting at the moment as well, which is quite cool. So no lights, and this is the result that we got. This is already quite nice to take into Photoshop and, you know, add a little bit more details. Like for example, I would probably go and add a little bit of light edges, or just lighten up the edges, make them look a little bit more interesting. And of course, with a different color combination, it might look nicer as well compared to what I have here. But this is basically the result that you can achieve. And you've noticed that the setup is not that complicated, it's quite simple. If we didn't spend time actually trying to come up with a model to, you know, put this light on, this would probably have taken me like 10-15 minutes, maybe less. So now what we have here is, if you take a look at our UV map, so all of those, you know, we can take this to Photoshop, as I mentioned before, and if you export this as a wireframe, that's when you can start, you know, working on those little nice little details that can add so much. And now really quickly, let's just try and put it inside Unity just to see if it actually is going to work or not. Okay, so we are in this new project in Unity. Took a little while to actually create it. So let's see how it's going to work for us. Normally, if you want your material to be connected to the, your texture to be connected to the material straight away, you want to import your texture first, and then you import your model. So I guess we can try and do that and just see what happens. I will really quickly import both of those, and you won't have to wait till I'm done looking for them. So I'm just going to go under import new asset and do it this way. You can also drag and drop them into your project window as well if you know where your assets are sitting, but try and go with the texture first and then your FBX file next. Cool, so you will see that both of the objects are now imported into the project, and you will also notice that my Lambert one automatically picked up the material and assigned it to the correct slot, which is really nice. So now what we can do is to actually drag our model, I guess, somewhere into the scene. Oops, and then let's just find this and focus on this one. Where's my main camera? Control Shift F will bring you to the same view you have in your scene. And I think I also want to change the directional light a little bit so that it looks more like this. So that's quite nice. You will notice that we unfortunately don't have the ability to change this material, so this can be a little bit annoying. So if you want to do this, and let's say maybe you want to choose a specific type of material you want to have for this guy, you might as well just create a new one, which I will do really quickly. That. I will assign my albedo in there, and let me reassign this to my material over here as well. So what we can do is, you will see that you can play around with the smoothness, for example, so you can start getting a look that looks like almost we have kind of like a mirror like material in here, really shiny. And if you go like this is more a metallic shine, right? But actually I don't want to have that, and I don't really want to have any smoothness. Let's see what else we can have here. If we had any sort of normal map or anything like that, we could include this in here as well. And I guess for the maybe for the shader type itself, it can be something like unlit color or texture. I don't remember what the difference was. I think we'll go with texture. And you will see that now we're sort of not getting any information from the light anymore, so it's not affecting our texture at all, which might be a good thing or it might be a bad thing. If it's a little bit too dark, then maybe you actually want to be using a different type of a material. So I guess I would recommend to play around with that. There can be a lot of really quite interesting things you can try and set up for our little totem over here. guess we can just go with our standard setup. Cool, and just change this. Again, so this is the metallic roughness. I think, was it a different one before if we go into standard? Yes, it looks a little bit different, right? But same sort of principle, just reversed values as far as I can see. So we can change the roughness of something in metallic as well. So you will see that the light is sort of diffusing when we go towards 1, or you're getting really nice highlight if we go the opposite way. Cool, and if your light itself is doing something quite nice, make it warmer. I'm just trying to find where the lighting is sitting. Change this a little bit. Cool, so maybe it's not too bad. And of course you can use a couple of other lights to just make it look more interesting, more unique. You know, if you were to add a couple of point lights, this highlight it a little bit better compared to what we have here. Oops. Just drag this out. Cool. So that's pretty much the basics of it. Again, if you were to spend a little bit more time without actually rushing, like what I was doing before, and set up the shader the way you want it to be, also take some time to take the resulting texture into Photoshop and just create a couple of nice little details. Maybe even set up a normal map if you wanted to have a little bit of, you know, surface, not distortion, but I guess if the surface was damaged, or maybe you had some sort of little carvings or scratches or something like that, it would make it look much more realistic. If you were to go into Substance Painter, of course, you can use their presets and make it look more like a stone, for example. But I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to show you. Again, it's a cool little technique, which doesn't take too much time. Can give you a quick result to be able to, you know, transfer this result into a game engine or into another scene in Maya. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time.